Hello, everyone, and welcome to Release Readiness Live, or welcome back if you joined us earlier for Sales Cloud. I'm Elna Miller, your community moderator, and I'm very excited to be here with you all week as we dive into some of the great new features in the Summer 19 release across all the major clouds. What I love about Release Readiness Live is no matter what kind of trailblazer you are, whether this is your first Salesforce release or your 20th, you will learn something new that you can use. And today we're rounding out our first day with Einstein Analytics. And our product managers are right here in the studio. They're going to be doing live demos, and also we'll be taking some of your questions on the air. And speaking of questions, our original community rock star, Sam Acuff, is going to tell us how that works. Sam.
Hello, everybody. It's very easy. All you need to use is the hashtag Salesforce Live. Either post in the Release Readiness Trailblazer community or post on Twitter. We do have a process of no questions left behind. We'll make sure we get to your questions. If we don't get to them on the air, we'll still follow up. All you need to remember to do is use the hashtag Salesforce Live. And Elna, back over to you.
Thank you, Sam. We're looking forward to lots of questions for this session today. And we are recording this broadcast, so you will be able to watch it back later and share it with others. And also, we may be talking about the roadmap, maybe making some forward-looking statements today. So just as a reminder, please make sure that you make any purchasing decision based on currently available functionality. And with that, I am very excited to welcome our Einstein Analytics product managers. Let's do some quick introductions, starting with Umair.
So, Umair Rauf, so today I'll be talking about the intelligent experience and some of the exciting things we're bringing in the Summer 19 Live.
Hi, I'm Avni Wadhwa. This is my first release readiness. I'm very excited. I'm one of the PMs on the Einstein Discovery team, so I'll be going over the new functionalities in the Summer 19 release.
And I am Antonio Scaramuzzino. It's my second Release Readiness Live and also my second year here at Salesforce. I will talk about the data platform. I'm very excited to be here today.
Amazing. Thank you. Great variety today. So let's go ahead and get rolling then, Umair, with the analytics experience.
Awesome. So analytics experience covers our Lightning reports, the Lightning dashboard, and if you kind of graduate to the Einstein Analytics product, it then gets into our report building experience for our amazing Ohana builders. And we go into the exploration, how you can do ad hoc exploration, and then I'll cover more details into the apps, the onboarding experience, and last but not least, I'm going to go deeper into the mobile side of things and what's coming in the summer release. Starting off with the experience, Lightning reports got a lot of kind of refresh in the summer release. So some of the exciting feature, which just before the session, Anusha spoke in the Sales Cloud release readiness. We talked about report table search, the row level formula, which is now going beta, the report notification. We also talk about the formatted export for the joint reports. And last but not the least, I'm very excited that some of our features around conditional formatting and just the historical report trending, report tracking, they went GA with the Lightning Report Builder. Anusha also talked about some of our exciting enhancements around our dashboard table. So with our Lightning dashboard, there are new things which came up around groups and measures, the two-level sorting, subtotals, and last but not the least, the dashboard subscription as well. So if you want to go deeper into the section around Lightning reports and dashboard, I would recommend you to watch the Sales Cloud release readiness, where we'll kind of go, you'll see more deep dive there. Now, when you graduate to the Einstein Analytics Growth or Plus, one of the things we were really focused very heavily in the summer release is how do you simplify the onboarding experience for our customers? So we've been very focused on enabling more in-app onboarding experience. We've also reinvigorated some of our learning maps, so there's more content and material available in order to get your trail started with Einstein Analytics. And last but not the least, we also are very closely helping out our builders by coming up with a new version of the Adventure app, which is going to talk about more how do you use some of the newer chartings which are becoming available, how do you do advanced SQL best practices, and last but not least, we're also putting in the new design best practices in our Learning Adventure app. Let me quickly show you some of the experience which are coming in. So if I go into the Analytics Studio, we have an exciting new Learn tab which is available, which is giving you a lot of getting started resources, which include bringing in your data, exploring data, how do you build and start building your exciting, intelligent experiences through apps. And last but not the least, we'll talk more deeply with Avni around our story and Einstein Discovery, but how do you go and start with building your first AI story? In addition to that, you can look at continuing learning and some of the exciting stuff which are coming out in the summer release. We have very, very detailed videos out there for you, for our builders and consumers to explore. Now, one of the other things we brought in from an onboarding experience perspective was you can now have widget level videos, custom videos, which can be right embedded using the Analytics Studio over here. So I can say, hey, this is my sales stage analysis onboarding video. And I can put in the embed URL for any of these videos. So as I run it, there's a new widget which becomes available where I can actually go in and start learning and kind of looking at that entire experience. So I can play in the video and try to get more insight on how do I think about using this feature, or what are the exciting things which this feature is offering to my consumer as I kind of roll out this dashboard for a broader adoption. Now, in addition to this, we also reinvigorated a lot of the building experience for these dashboards, and we wanted to make it more and more simplified for our developers and our admins. So if I go in, so if some of the key features I want to highlight over here is, first, we now have a new dedicated panel in order to look at your global filters. So now you can actually have a single mode, or you can have all global filters, which can be shown in that mode. But one of the things which you can go in now is I can do pick initial values, and there's a single initial value feature where I can go say, hey, let me go look at all time, and this becomes my dashboard default. So this now goes across our global filters and some of the other filters you may have on the dashboard. So we've consolidated that starting value feature. I can simply also go in, and as I go in and add more columns, you can actually go start putting some of those columns directly from the global filter panel. So I'm going to add this main delete widget, and I go in and add a new filter. Pipeline trending, and I'm going to do owner. So you can start looking at some of the filters over here, and you can look at all global filters that directly in this panel. One of the other things you can also do is if I go in and add a list filter, sorry, I'm going to do another filter, a range filter, and I'll say, hey, amount previous. I can go also filter style. I can actually go in and consolidate some of the filter style around these to say, hey, I want to have a pill box or a combo box. So as you kind of go in and specify some of these properties around this, widget style, use default, or you want to go deeper, so you're able to update some of these widget properties directly from here. In addition to this, one of the other exciting feature which is coming in the summer release is when I go in and start adding or exploring my dashboard, I can go in and say sum of amount. I can go and say average of amount. If I go in and start looking at this, one of the other areas is I may want to look at industry, for example. As I go into my compare table and I go start seeing the properties, we also took a lot of the usability feedback from our Trailblazer, and we're also pulling in some of these insights directly over here. So I can say, hey, I want to go do it, change from previous or running total, and I want to add column. So you can simply specify it from here, and I can apply this. directly from the experience over here. I can add more columns from here, and I can say this is count of rows directly. So the overall experience for customizing or the advanced table properties is coming in this section. I can go back and actually I can choose a combo type over here. So one of the other capabilities now, you can actually go in as you start setting the properties. For this widget is I can go in, I can say this is going to be dual axis. In addition to that, one of the exciting feature over here is for any of these series, I can go in and customize my series, and I say, hey, for amount, I'm going to use the bar. But for when I do count of rows, let me try to go do a dot, or in terms of the running total, let me go do a dot. So this is another area where now you can actually go use dot plots in your visualization, and you can show it here. Now, when you go in and look at these dot plots, you can actually do some of these advanced customizations where you can actually go build a bullet chart around it. And there are a few other chart types you can actually build directly from that experience. Now, so a couple of highlights, new learning tab on onboarding. You can look at driving more adoption and engagement with custom and widget level videos in the onboarding side. If I recap some of the things which are coming on the dashboards, Einstein Analytics dashboard, one is you can mix and match filter. You can have a global filter combined with a regular filter right on your dashboard. We're also bringing in consistent look and feel across your filters. So I'm going to quickly show you this capability. I can go back into Studio and I can say, hey, let me load up my pipeline trending. Pipeline trending dashboard. Oh. Pipeline trending. Company trending. As I go start looking at this experience, I can go in and add a new filter here, which could be my pipeline trending owner. As I go create this filter, I can look at the filter style and the widget properties. I can decide if this is if this is single global filter, so I can have filters in different places on my dashboard, but now you can have like the full filter panel, or you can individually place global filters in any portion of your dashboard. So that was one of the other capabilities, and we're also ensuring that as you are using some of these custom filters, you can also customize the display and the layout around this and show widget filter style, or I can start looking at a pill style so that there's more alignment to the global filter right when you see this capability. Some of the other things is I showed you the global filter management panel, and last but not the least, the selection default via picking the initial values. One of the other things we're also doing is that as if a step within your dashboard breaks, we're now showing you detailed step error conditions for the error steps as well, so that you can actually go troubleshoot and specifically isolate a specific problem within your dashboard. I was showing you some of the bullet capability, the dot, the box, like the properties around the dots on different chart visualizations. So bullet chart was one example. You can also use it to maybe build box plots, and like an example would be a whisker chart for the same kind of highlight. We also did a bunch of work in the Einstein Analytics mobile application, where some of these features around the single global filter panel, just the new look and feel for date and list widgets, and dots in the combo chart, they're now all available on both iOS and Android with the summer release coming out. And we also took a lot of the usability feedback from our builders in order to ensure that the Android experience is a little bit more smoother when you're engaging with these charts and when you're kind of diving out into deeper exploration. One other area I'm going to show you in the Explorer space is when I go in and kind of start building my dashboard experience, we are also allowing you an easier access to like the toggle widget, so that when you add in a toggle widget, I can go into the steps and say, hey, when I go connect this, I look at columns. While you're looking at different columns, you can actually say, hey, I want to look at, you can look at the properties, but you're able to easily toggle by using the dashboard properties. By using, rather than going into deeper bindings, you can directly do it through the UI. Last, I'm going to show you the embedding option within Einstein Analytics dashboard. We extended the Einstein Analytics dashboard panel in order to allow setting the properties for these directly from here. So I can now have a filter builder, or I can have the raw string. So as I go into the filter builder, I can go and simply connect different fields on my data set and select the different fields from my page layouts and connect it all through the UI. So I can look at the city, and I can also go and look at from lead history, the city field over here, and I can connect those in and actually build advanced filter options directly by using a UI rather than going into the actual trying to put in the JSON in here. So this is going to help us really put in more easier embedding back into your record pages within Salesforce. Last, we also worked a lot on our template capabilities. So one of the exciting product which is coming out is the retail banking was added into the Einstein Analytics for financial services. So we expanded the personas where originally we had financial, we had the wealth advisor for the retail manager, for the wealth advisors and the wealth managers. We extended this also to include retail banking, and there's a lot of out-of-the-box metrics and dashboard available. We're going to go deeper into this topic on Thursday when you'll be able to access the recording for industry analytics release readiness, and as part of that, we'll go deeper into Einstein Analytics. Finally, we also, if I go into Analytics Studio, we did add a number of additional templates. So one, in the spring release, we added a search bar, but now I can actually go in and start filtering my capabilities by different industries or by a different product tag, so that you can actually get to specific templates. And a few of the templates which we added as part of this summer release included, if I go into clearing this out, create from templates. So we have a new template coming around for sustainability analytics, which is going to be based around a managed package we're looking forward to kind of roll out in the summer release. In addition to that, we have the fundraising performance analytics. This is new in the summer release, which looks at specifically for nonprofits, customers who are using the Salesforce Starter nonprofit pack. And then in addition to that, we have a public sector case management, which is also going live, which will give you a lot of the case management for our public sector businesses. Some of these templates are also going live in the summer release. With that said, back to you.
Wow, that was rapid fire. A lot of information, and I bet we have a lot of questions. So Sam, what have we got?
Well, I think one of the things that I want to go into is, and I know that we'll go into it later, but let's dig a little bit deeper in terms of what's available for other industries and what exactly is available for financial services. I think we went through that really fast, and I want to make sure our listeners know what's there.
Cool. So right now, we went out with the Einstein Analytics for financial services. We were focused on the wealth persona and the retail banking persona. We're very actively looking at other areas deeper into the financial services space. So you'll soon start seeing the insurance analytics, which is going in closed pilot right now. And you'll see that coming in the next few months from a roadmap perspective, safe harbor. We're also expanding industries where we'll actually go into health. And we're also looking at manufacturing at this point in time. So watch out for those coming in the winter release. We're very, very excited about the work we're doing in these industries. And there's a lot of momentum going on with these industry products.
Any specific information about the personas that those industries will be tackling?
Yeah, so in case of insurance, we're really going after the retail agent, but we're also, and the insurance agent, but we're also looking at the insurance agent managers and also the territory managers who are looking at just how fast the insurance business is growing. In the healthcare, we're looking at a bunch of personas around care management managers, people who are looking at utilization management. We're looking at personas, we're looking at referral management and some of the social determinants. So we're looking at personas who would be looking at in the health space around those. And in manufacturing, we'll also go into not only individual personas, but also people who are looking at the business overall in order to get a full perspective on the health of their business.
Great. So I have a question about the filter UI on record pages. I mean, This is always exciting when you bring the app to life. And first of all, are they going to be available in the community Lightning Builder? And second of all, I think the audience would like to hear some use cases of where this would be applied.
Yeah, and so, that's very, very exciting. So we are right now enabling that UI on record pages in Salesforce. So you can go look at this in the Lightning App Builder, but we'll also, when you're exposing some of these record pages in communities, community is also one of the very strong use cases which our customers are looking at, and we're very excited that the community Lightning Builder, App Builder also supports using this UI in order to embed for not only for your employees, but also with your partners and distributors and customers who are coming in and engaging on communities.
So Elna, I think what we should do is move on. I'm sure some more questions will come up.
Great, thank you. So Avni, off to you for Einstein Discovery, and let me know when you're ready, and we'll dive in. All right.
Let's get started. So just to get started, I wanted to give a general overview of the new features in the summer 19 release. So kind of our three themes that we're going with are autonomous, trusted AI, and disrupt using AI. So under the autonomous theme, we have data set scoring. So now you can run a new data set through a model that you've created in Einstein Discovery, and you can get that data set scored. Secondly, we have Einstein predictions in the Lightning component. We'll go through that today. That's a really exciting feature where once you've built a model and you've deployed it in Salesforce, you can get real-time scores from from changes within a row in your data set or running new data through it. We have a new setup experience, so we'll be demoing that as well. It's easier to use. You have more information kind of right off of the bat. And then we're working on story versioning. So, all the iterations that you run through with stories, you'll have versions. So you can see what changed within those versions and just, have a kind of history of what you went through. With Trusted AI, we're working on a live prediction monitoring pilot for the summer 19 release. So what that looks like is, you've deployed a model. What are some metrics that you can look at as it's in production already? We did a lot of work on enhancing the model metrics. So to kind of trust the models that you're building in Einstein Discovery, you can dive in and see exactly what's going on. And then we put in a protected field feature, so basically eliminating bias from models that you're creating in Einstein Discovery. We'll be demoing that as well. So prediction APIs, so now you can call models that you've built in Einstein Discovery from places outside Salesforce, so that's really exciting. We put in a feature selection, an automatic feature selection algorithm for regression type problems. So basically, Einstein Discovery will automatically pick some features, kind of speeds up the process and lessens the number of features used in the model. We're predicting quantities. So this, for example, if you're predicting how many customers are coming through, you don't want a decimal number, you want a whole number. And so you can kind of select that right off of the bat and you'll get kind of outcomes that make sense to you. Intelligent bucketing. So that you have a numeric column that Einstein Discovery will automatically bucket for you. It'll give you recommendations and say, you should look at ages not 20 to 30, maybe you should look at ages 18 to 25. That's a more interesting demographic for this use case. And then we're supporting smaller data sets. So the number of rows that you need to build a story with have been lowered, and we'll go through that in detail as well. So just diving in to a few of these, for transparent, we have the predictive factors. So now you can see exactly what factors were used to, get to the decisions that the model made for you. And we'll go through that in the demo. Protected fields, again, make sure you can eliminate bias from the model right off of the bat, and Einstein Discovery will tell you what other variables are acting as proxies for that variable that you selected as something that you think might be introducing bias into your model. And lastly, model metrics, a lot of work has been done on that. I'm really excited to share the progress on that. So going back, accountable AI, that's one of our number one kind of pillars for this release. So this is a feature that we'll go through, but basically you select a field that you think will introduce bias into the story, into the model, and Einstein Discovery will tell you which other variables might be acting as proxies for that. Dive deeper into model output. So you have kind of a more interactive place to play with model output and see how changing different factors affects predictions. One-click deployment, so this is the great lightning card that we can put in that after you've deployed a model, you can now play with the output automatically on a record level. And support for smaller data sets. So you can now create a model using only 400 rows. That originally was 500 rows. And you can create just the descriptive story insights using only 50 rows. And again, that limit used to be 500 rows as well. So we're really excited to kind of support more use cases and enable more customers to use the product. So with that, I'm going to jump into the demo. So from your analytics studio, we're going to look at an employee attrition use case. So this is, how many employees are churning essentially. So normally, what you would do is create some sort of visualization around this. So here we're seeing, when people are working overtime, they're more likely to attrit, which is obvious, but you don't really know what other factors are going into this. So what you might do is create an Einstein Discovery story. So what we'll do is with the employee attrition data set, we'll create a story. So the goal here is we want to minimize people who are attriting. So attrition, yes, we're minimizing. And that's all you really need to do to start creating a story in Einstein Discovery. So with the data options here, you have all of the columns in your data set. And you can click into some of them. So for example, we can click into age, and you'll see kind of the distribution of age in this data set. This is something new that we've added is manual bucketing. So you can click that and say, I want to look at people under 20 separately, and then add a bucket. I want to look at people 20 to 25, et cetera, and go through that way. And then you see above that there's some sort of visualization that comes up that says these are the buckets that you're creating. These are the number of people essentially in each bucket. So that's one way to do it, or you can let Einstein Discovery try and look for buckets for you. So we'll see that as we move on. So something that we might want to do is we'll look at marital status, and that might not be something that we want to use in the data set, or it might introduce some sort of bias, so we'll mark that as a protected field. And that's all we really need to do, and we'll create a story. So while that's running, let's look at one that's already complete. This is the first iteration of this, so this is already complete. We see that overtime explains 6% of the variation in people attriting. As we go down, that's called a first order insight. We have second order insights where we look at two variables together. So here, when job level is 1 and people are working overtime, no does worse. So you can kind of drill into what two variables look like together. You can kind of favorite any of these cards and then, go to the favorite section and you'll see any of the insights that you thought were particularly useful. You'll find them here. So that's been really cool. Why it happened is pretty much the same. So you can kind of look at a row level or, like at a column level, what exactly is going on. So you can see overtime, yes, explains like almost 10% of people attriting. And you can see what other kind of variables go into the global kind of outcome of this happening. So I want to jump to model metrics. Actually, first let's look at, so we have 3 recommended updates. Why don't we see what those look like? So we have a lot of duplicates. We have a lot of columns in the data set where a column is kind of explaining the same variation that another one is. So You have the option to do nothing. You can retain one of the columns or both, basically. So bias. So here, it looks like stock option level is acting as a proxy for marital status. So as you might remember, we marked marital status as something that we don't want to use in this model, as it might introduce some sort of bias, and stock option level is highly correlated with it, and therefore acting as a proxy. So this is a new feature. This is really great when trying to eliminate any sort of bias from your model. Recommended buckets. So this is something really cool that we've also been working on that I went over. We're using an unsupervised learning algorithm to recommend buckets to you. So hourly rate buckets that it's recommending are 30 to 51, 52 to 69, etc. So you can either apply those new buckets or you can do nothing. So that's new and very cool. So let's say, I want to get rid of bias. You can remove stock option and create a new story, or you can remove it and then customize the story. So this is the new setup that we had talked about. Here, all of these recommended updates are kind of summarized. So you can see, job role is a duplicate, essentially. Years at a company is a duplicate. So this is a cool place to kind of look at all of the different recommendations that Einstein Discovery made to you. So let's say we reran the story. I'm not going to do it live. I already ran it. So let's say we reran the story, and now we have this new kind of, there's no bias in the story now. That was the one that I kind of took action on. So bias has been removed. So now I'm happy with this model. Let's take a deeper dive into what's actually going on in the model. So this is the new model metrics page that we've worked really hard on. Here you get some general information about the model. You get some, AUC is a very common metric to look at to kind of understand the validity of this model. You look at, we're optimizing for accuracy here. So you're seeing what the accuracy and what the threshold at that value was, and you get a snapshot of the confusion matrix. And we have some text here to kind of try and help you understand, as a business user, what's going on under the hood in your model. So next tab, prediction examination. So here we look at the first few rows of your data set, and you can see how your model performed, what the predicted outcome was, and what the actual outcome was. And you can look at different thresholds. So you can see, when we maximize for accuracy, our model correctly predicted for this row whether or not someone was going to attrit. But how about if we looked at markedness? So now that's no longer true. The predicted outcome is no when the actual outcome was yes. And what were the top factors that went into kind of making this prediction? Job satisfaction was one of the top factors. Overtime being yes was one of the factors, and obviously contributing to people attriting, and then performance rating. So this is a cool place to kind of play with your model output. You can look at the first few rows, play with the threshold value to kind of decide what a good one would be to deploy your model at. Model evaluation, we've done a lot of work on this as well. So here we have an ROC curve, and all of the threshold values along the ROC curve you can click on and kind of see, how the confusion matrix changes. What are the trade-offs that you're making to pick this threshold? You can optimize any of these. So say that like F1 score is the metric that you want to use to deploy your model at. You can click on that, and it'll give you the threshold that's associated with that maximum F1 score. So this is a really cool place, an interactive place to play with your model output and kind of make decisions on whether or not you're happy with it, where you want to deploy at. Cross-validation, so this screen is very similar to what the model metrics looked like previously. You just get some information about what the general metrics are for each fold that was used in the data set. Coefficient, so here you can see exactly what the coefficients were, exactly what the variables were, and what their importance were in kind of determining whether or not someone will attrit. And then finally, for anyone who wants to dive deeper, there is R code. This is the same as the last release. You can kind of dive in, see exactly what the model is doing. So now I'm happy with this model. I'm ready to deploy it. What do I do? So deploy model. Let's deploy it as a new goal. Add an object. So I created a custom object previously for this called employee. We'll map the fields. So here we're mapping each field to the object field. And we do this when we're setting up the custom object. So configure the write back. So do we have an API field or create a new field? I'm gonna just leave it as is. Add filters. I'm not looking at a specific segment here, so I can leave that at no. Add actionable variables. So which of these variables can I actually take action on? Business travel is something that as maybe a business owner, I could control. I could say that this person should be traveling less. That's something I have control in, whereas, like age, I don't have any control over. I am not going to define a terminal step, and with that, I can deploy this model. So once that's done, we can go over here and we see this one employee. Let's see how, so now we've put in a lightning card here with the Einstein predictions, Einstein discovery predictions, like readily available. And you can change any of the factors here and kind of see how it affects the outcome. So let's edit this card. This person has a 17.98 likelihood of attriting. What if we changed, this person's a female, what if they were male? How would it change? So you see that the likelihood drops a little bit and you see what the top factors are. So it's really cool. We get a live update on the prediction right here. So you can see, we marked the business travel as something that was actionable for us. So by changing business travel to non-travel, we can kind of reduce the likelihood of this person attriting by almost 7%. So you have somewhere that you can see actual actions you can take as a business owner to control the outcome that you're looking at and analyzing. And how we do this is in the edit page field. We have this new Einstein predictions tab right here, and you can just drag it in, put it right there, and that's kind of how this is doable for everyone watching. That's kind of all I had for the demo. We can move on to questions if there are any.
That's great. So just quick clarification on what you were just building, the whole story and all of the criteria that you were entering there. Does that primarily impact what you see on the prediction builder when you're looking at an individual record, or is it also used for, let's say you're looking at the data more in aggregate, like on a dashboard or in a report? Where do you most use that type of modeling?
Yeah, so that type of modeling is mostly used for, you've trained a model, the model has learned from historic data, and now you're going to deploy the model. So you're going to see how the model's output performs on new data. So it's more of a predictive tool than it is looking at the past.
So you're looking at one record or a report of something, and you can see trends in the report as well as what do I do about this one employee?
Right, exactly.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thanks.
That's great. So Sam, what do we have out in the audience?
Well, I want to make sure that I understood. So I think that in the past, there was more work involved in installing a managed package to be able to do this. So let's be really clear in terms of how this is moving us more into an in-app, point-and-click, administrative kind of functionality instead of having to go get a managed package and install it. So can you drill into that a little bit more?
Sure. So there's a lot less effort required from the analyst, the admin kind of using this. It's pretty point and click. It's very understandable, very usable. We're getting closer at least to getting rid of the managed package. And it's a much more seamless experience when deploying an Einstein discovery model.
And how does somebody start working with this? They haven't bought it, they haven't purchased it, they're really interested. I'm always, because I used to be an admin and I'm also a data geek, I'm always interested in how I build the use case in my organization to bring a tool like this in. What would you recommend for our listeners who aren't already using this? How do they start? Where do they start?
So there's a great trailhead on Einstein Discovery. That's a really, really great place to start. That's where I started. It's really comprehensive, and there's an example that you can go through. There's a data set prepackaged so that you can actually live use the tool and really understand.
You can use it on Trailhead then, so it's already there for you. You don't have to purchase or get a courtesy license.
Yeah, you can try, right then.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing. You talked about bias. Can you drill in a little bit into what you meant by bias when you were talking about that in your models?
Sure. So kind of there's two pieces of this. There are some industries where it's regulated and it's required that there is no bias in models, and then there's the second piece, which is more of a moral piece where you're hoping that the models that you're deploying in your business are not biased. And so for people in regulated industries, they have to really report exactly why the model made the prediction that it did. And a feature like this would be really helpful because if you're eliminating something that is going to introduce bias, you select that, and then you'll automatically be told when other features are acting as proxies for that. So you don't have to, drill in and figure it out. Einstein Discovery will automatically recommend that you eliminate other columns as well that are acting as proxies. So that's the new feature on the responsible AI piece, and we're really excited about moving forward on that track.
So exploring this whole concept of building up a use case, what are some of the use cases that you've seen used for Einstein Discovery amongst our customers?
Sure. So there's two types of problems that Einstein Discovery aims to solve. There's regression problems, which means we're predicting a specific number. So in that context, like days to close, what expected revenue might be, what expected sales might be, that's that piece. And then there's the classification piece, which means we're bucketing something into a yes or a no. So something like this: will someone churn? Will this sale go through? Those are the two different types of problems, and those are the most popular use cases.
And for those who are using Einstein Discovery already, what's a good use case for the new protected field feature?
Sure. So, if you know something like race is introducing bias into your model, you can select that, and you'll see very many, like other columns. So zip code, for example, is often a proxy, and that'll automatically come up. So that's a really good, if you know that there is basically a column in your data set that is biased, that's a really good use case to use this feature for.
And what is the best thing I can show my data scientist to validate the model?
Sure. So we've done a lot of work on model metrics, as we saw in the demo. So it's much more transparent. There's much more kind of insight into what exactly is going on under the hood that Einstein Discovery is doing. So I think that would be a really, really good place to point your data scientist to kind of validate everything that the product is doing.
Elna, I think what we'll do is we'll wait for some more questions to come in towards the latter part, and I think we should move on.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Sam. So in order for all of this magic to happen, you got to have the data, and the data has to be in a form that you can use and prepped and analyzed and entered and pulled. So let's talk about some of the new features in data prep from Antonio.
Thank you for the great introduction, and I'm very excited about the features for data platform for summer 19. Let me start for time series. The feature itself is not new. We started a couple releases ago offering these new models, which allow our customers to analyze the evolution of their business over time. They support seasonal, non-seasonal, prediction interval, but new for summer 19 on the time series feature, we have now support for year, month, day, and more seasonality options. Our customers have many use cases for this, and given their feedback, we figured out we need to give them full flexibility here, so they have the ability of doing anything between 2 and 24 periods of seasonality, depending on what's their underlying business use case for their time series analysis. Fill missing dates. It's also a feature that allow, as you can see in the animation, sometimes you have gaps in your data over time, and you might want to highlight those gaps. And also for this feature in summer 19, we're offering year, month, day support, which means that at this point we pretty much offer full calendar support. Whereas up to the spring, we had year, quarter, and year, month as the lowest grains for this. Let me switch gears a little bit and talk about connectors now. Our customers love connectors. They want to be able to pull data from a number of different sources. And so We're doing improvements on existing connectors in terms of how much data they can bring in. And so this is the example of Redshift, where we increase the limit to 100 million rows or 50 gigabytes of data. We created this staging modes method to import data from Google BigQuery to increase the throughput of data that we can bring in. And on top of improvements to existing connectors, especially the most powerful and popular like Redshift and BigQuery, we are also introducing new connectors in the pipeline. So now Eloqua and NetSuite are going to be GA, and we have a new beta connector for Marketo. So you're going to be able to bring and analyze even more data for all of the amazing features that we have talked about with Umair and Avni. Data sync, also very, very important, very, very powerful. And I'm going to actually also spend a couple minutes showing this in the demo. We are going to be able now to set, we've given a simplified page for you to set the incremental connection mode on objects, and we have also added this periodic full sync mode. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. And something we are very, very excited about on data prep recipes, we now offer joins, aggregation. For this couple of features, these are going to be rolled out during the summer 19 release lifespan. So look out in the community for more information on when your specific instance is gonna get this. And in the meantime, let's move to the demo. So let's start from the data manager page. The first thing that you can see is that we now have a refreshed look and feel for this, where you can monitor the status of your jobs. You can see if they're recipes, if it's data sync, data flows. I don't have one here, but of course you will see all the types of jobs, what was the status, how much time it took, and so on and so forth. Again, in a new UI and experience. Let's switch to the Connect page for a moment. And even here, you can see a renovated look where you can see immediately what are the existing connections that you set up. In this case, for example, we set up some connections to local Salesforce objects and some connection to external data on Google Cloud Spanner. And again, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be able now to set up the connection mode for all of this. And you now have three options. Incremental sync and full sync were always there. Depending on the types of information that you have and the way it gets updated, the way it gets deleted, you might need to be able to just do incremental changes, or you will need to do a full sync of your data to make sure that there is no data drift between what you have in your data sets and what you have in your original source. One example would be if you have hard deletes, if you just do incremental, you might lose that information. But now we offer a third option, which is periodic full sync, which gives you the ability to make use of the speed of incremental sync, because obviously that's much faster than synchronizing all the data all the time, but then also have the periodic full synchronization to kind of realign the data and make sure that you avoid that data drift problem. As I said, I'm very excited about the data prep updates. So let's go to the data and let's go in a demo about that. So I'm gonna create a recipe about on this employee use case. I'm excited. Both Avni and I had employee examples, and we really want to retain our employees. So let's pretend that we are creating the original data for the employee retention use case that we just saw. And so I have my HR data, and I'm going to start with it. So first feature that I want to show you here. Let's select the first column, the employee number, and if I go on the anomaly section, I can see that the feature identified an anomalous row. In this case, I can click and it's going to be highlighted. We automatically detected that the format here is not correct. All the other numbers are separated by hyphens, and this one is separated by a slash. And so we have what we call Einstein suggestions here of what you can do with this. You could filter out this row, or you could just fix it. So in this case, let's fix it, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to fix the number here. When I click Add, this is going to create a new column with the corrected data so that we don't lose the original information, right? We'll see how this is important in terms of our workflow. So let's go now on the education column and highlight one more data prep functionality that we have here. If I expand the list of values that I have in my data set, well, bachelor, master, college, below college are very common, but I also have a number of rows that contains different spellings of pretty much the same thing. So to clean up this data, Einstein here is suggesting to do bucketing by clusters. And when I do that, it's suggesting to create, the feature already suggests to create, for example, bachelor, and it's putting together the two spellings. Same for master and college. In the case of below college, it's found 3 different spellings. We are gonna, clean up this data and make it all uniform. And so also in this case, when I add I'm literally adding a new column with the education information that's cleaned up. As I mentioned earlier, we are very excited about joins and aggregations. So let's look at that. When I click joining with that data, let's say, for example, that in order to do our Einstein discovery analysis on employees, we need not only the original HR data, but we also want to pull in the data on surveys that we did on these employees. I can do that and join. The first very cool thing is that the system already matched the keys in one data set with the keys in the other. And what I find really, really cool is that we also identified that in the original data set we started with, the correct key, the key that matches most of the time, is actually the one that we created as the cleaned up one. Because, of course, the system clearly identified that it's going to match also for this particular record that wasn't clean. If I look on the left side here, I can select all the columns for the different from both sides, and they are color coded, right? So the blue ones come from the source employee HR, and we see there is even the information there, and the orange ones come from the other data set. And so, for example, I might not care about the employee number from this data set because that's just my key, or I can keep it in if I elect to do so. And I can add other columns like job satisfaction, relationship satisfaction, performance rating, for example, so that actually I can use them in my analysis down the line. here on top, I can see that I'm able to actually select the various ways in which I can join the data. A simple lookup, and you can see that it also gives me an explanation on what all of these modality, different modes do: left join, right join, so on and so forth. So let's say in this case we do a left join starting from the HR data. Once I'm done, I now have my whole data set that's putting together the data from both the sources. I can see here on the left that all the operations that I've done so far. Let's do one more, which is the aggregation. And you know that in our product we have an extremely powerful query engine that's able to crunch a lot of data, even a grain, even if it's hundreds of millions of rows. And actually, also for this topic of scale, please keep an eye on a community. We'll have more information on what we're doing on the back end there as well, available soon. But at the same time, for very different specific use case, you might want to actually aggregate your original data and build a smaller data set for your use case. And this feature allows you to do just that. So let's say you want to take this data and group it, for example, by marital status, gender, attrition, yes or no, the education. Actually, let's bring in the cleaned up education that we just created, and so on and so forth, a few of these columns. And then we also aggregate, of course, we also do the calculation. So we want to have the average monthly income based on all of these groupings. And let's put just a couple more. What's the average age there? And what's, for example, the count of records that fall into all of these buckets. And this will allow us to build a smaller, more compact data set that could be used for a specific use case that we have there. Again, we can see that the left part of our UI clearly explains what are all the steps that we're doing, and once we are happy, we can click the button Create Dataset, and at that point, the dataset will be available for all the users that we have just seen in all the previous demos. This is what I have today.
That's great. The joins is really exciting.
Yes, we are very excited about that.
Create this so easily. So thank you for sharing that. Sam, we have time for maybe one or two quick questions, and then we're going to wrap it up for today. But I do want to just let everybody know that in addition to the release readiness community, where you can ask any questions about the release, any features that you're curious about, there's also a really great Einstein Analytics community in the Trailblazer community, where there's a great group of really active customers and experts who love to talk about Einstein Analytics. And I bet there's going to be some great conversations going on after today there. So definitely join if you're curious about learning more about Einstein Analytics, or you have Einstein Analytics and you want to ask questions and kind of dive deeper into some of these different use cases.
Join, no pun intended there.
Exactly. Join to learn about the joins. So go ahead, Sam. I'll hand it to you.
I think data prep for any analyst is one of the huge issues, especially when you're dealing with data that's not standard or what we call dirty data. So when you're talking about data prep, I love the fact that you can change this. My question is when you're looking at data, can you set thresholds for things like how much you are willing to allow to be discarded off the top before you start getting into the specifics of what you want to identify and fix? Or what are your feelings on good data prep and what analysts should be thinking about? Because we spend a lot of time in this area before we ever can get to the analytics.
All the things that we have seen today really rely on having good and clean data. I feel that we offer the analyst, of the person that's going through this operation, all the information that they need to make an informed decision. I don't want to make a blanket statement where I say, oh, you should keep 90% of your data. It is really use case dependent. But I feel that every time we give you all the information that you need, we tell you how many rows are, an anomaly and why, and you can either fix them or remove them. So I feel that in this field, again, no pun intended, field, but giving the kind of transparency is really what's powerful there.
Great. Now, you talked about a periodic full sync option. How frequently does that happen?
So right now for periodic full sync, that's going to happen weekly. And it's going to happen automatically on the weekend. We kind of picked for you. That's also usually a good moment where your business is stopped and we are going to do the periodic full sync. So during the week is going to be incremental, and the full sync is going to run in the weekend.
Alrighty, Elna, back to you.
All right, I think we might have a couple more questions on deck here, but one great one is, what about features for developers in this release? So for example, the dashboard inspector and the asset history pilot, are there any of those that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah. So in the dashboard inspector, one of the things we're doing is we give you full transparency in terms of what query is running at the back end, and there's a whole performance profile which comes against those queries, when essentially you're creating an experience which is going to thousands of people in the organization. But in addition to that, one of the things where the information started missing was when a step error out, because we were not able to kind of fully comprehend where the data set linkages were not there. So now, starting this release, that's also going out. One of the other pilot, which Skip, one of my colleague product managers, is running, is dashboard versioning, where how you're able to traverse to previous versions of the dashboard and resurrect them. We're looking for more feedback around that feature before we kind of bring it more front and center to the entire user experience. So talk to your account executive or your customer success team if you're looking to participate in that feature, which gives you kind of that entire history of what has happened with your dashboard over time and who has been modifying or changing it over time.
Right, thanks. Now, you did mention a few different templates that people could get that are coming out, and new templates. I think you mentioned one for sustainability and one for nonprofit. Great to see some love for the nonprofits. I know there's a lot out there who really love to see, some things specifically for their use cases. So what about customers who are out there who are wondering, should I build this from scratch, or maybe is there a template coming that I might be able to use? So can you think about maybe some other templates, or talk about some other templates that you might be working on or thinking about releasing?
Very good question. So we love to get more and more ideas for what customers are use from a use case perspective. So I would highly encourage kind of engaging in the community and kind of share your ideas, and also through idea exchange. But a few of the things we're aggressively working on is, one is industry-focused products. So in the industry-focused products, I talked about financial services already out, and we're looking towards insurance, manufacturing, healthcare. In addition to that, we're also looking at more Einstein discovery-based templates. So already in the product today, when you go in and install the analytics for Viva, or if you go in and install the pricing analytics, we give you some of the out-of-the-box data sets, which you can actually then use for kind of the Einstein discovery story is kind of kicked right in there. And we are making sure that that model exists for financial services analytics. We have a new one coming around the summer release time frame, a little bit later in the release, which is going to focus specifically on pipeline management. So like when you install the template, it automatically pulls in the Einstein discovery model for it. And last, we did push out a few dashboard templates, which is like, how do I get from a data set to my visualization very, very quickly? And we're looking for we're looking for more ideas. So share your feedback on the community, and we'll definitely engage with you there.
All right, great. Yeah, either the Einstein Analytics community or the Release Readiness community for today. And also, I think I heard that the classic designer may be reaching the end of the road. So if you maybe just say a few words about that so that folks know who might be using that.
Good catch. So yes, we announced the end of life for the Classic Designer last year in April. We are, by July 30th, the Classic Designer is going end of life. So if you've not already converted all of your dashboard overs to the new Designer, we have aggressive customer success program running. So engage with your customer success team, and we have accelerators in that space, so to help you convert over. But our target is by July 30th, we will be finishing off access to the Classic Designer.
A lot of the reason that we moved to new tools is because we're working on innovation, right? Putting a lot of our energy into innovation. And speaking of that, I want to give each of you a chance to just spend a quick moment talking about what are the key themes that you're thinking about for the roadmap for the next, let's say, 2 to 3 releases.
Antonio, do you want to start?
You want to start, Antonio?
So, well, thank you, Mer. For us, really, scale is going to be a really big topic. And again, you learn more about what we're doing in that space soon. And empowering our users with stronger data prep capabilities and more connectors definitely are some of the other topics.
Yeah, for Einstein Discovery, I think we're focusing on scale as well. We talked a little bit about scaling down, so you can use less rows to build a model and do some analysis, but we really want to scale that out as well. So scaling out is going to be a huge part of what we do moving forward. And I think we're really going to drill in with more AI, so kind of more transparency into the models that we're building, kind of more control. So that's the other really big theme that we're drilling into for the next couple releases.
And on the experience layer, so as you kind of pivoted, builders are one of our key persona. We want to make sure that they're very, very successful as they're building these analysis and really able to move fast. So in that arena, we're trying to continue to move on our dial around no JSON, so that how much can you do more and more of those common use cases directly on the UI. So some of the filter panel things, how do you do toggle dimension, which are coming in this release, are already step in that direction. So you'll see more features coming around no JSON in the winter release. In addition to that, we're coming up with an entirely new redesigned home experience. And we are also looking at notification subscription. How do you engage with analytics where the analytics is pushed to you and you're not only coming to analytics? So that's another key area of excitement. And last but not the least, for builder, we're like builder and consumer, we're also looking at how do we give you these templates which can accelerate that journey entirely, right? It circumvents a lot of the steps towards building that analysis, right? By packaging a lot of these best practices and the data sets right into these templates. And finally, all of this is going to be available on mobile. So all of these exciting features you already have available on mobile, we're looking at how do you have a more tighter integration with S1? So the SDK, in order to even go doing more tighter embedding and the notification and subscription right there in that engagement across mobile.
So when you say no JSON, are you talking about tipping the scales, maybe less towards the technical data scientists and maybe more towards the declarative builders, maybe make this tool more accessible for sort of the adventurous admins who maybe don't have the deep level of technical data science experience?
That's a good call out. It's going to be a lot more around the declarative side on as I'm putting up these, taking up the AI insights or taking up my data, how do you put that into a dashboard experience? But more importantly, your business is kind of engaging across multiple data dimension and how do you connect those data sets without needing to go into more deeper technical land and really be able to do it declaratively through the UI. Right. That's our direction.
All right. Well, we are going to give you a few minutes back in your day today, I think, because we finished all the content. But if we didn't get your question on the air, we will definitely follow up within the next couple of days. And of course, if you have any other questions after you've noodled on this for a while, please feel free to keep talking to us out in the release readiness community. I can't wait to hear how you're all innovating on these new features. Please do give us your feedback by clicking on the survey on the page. And also keep in mind that we have recorded the session, so you'll be able to watch it back later. And we do hope that you join us tomorrow at 9:30 Pacific for our platform session. We'll have the the whole team here, talking about some of the general features for Salesforce. And we, of course, are going to keep the conversation going out in the release readiness community, where all Trailblazers connect to be release ready. So we'll see you there. Thank you.